So hello and welcome to the Soul-Led Spirit Driven channel. My name is Kasia and my guest today is Angela McKay. So please meet Angela, who is a career intuitive and certified vocation coach who left the corporate HR world to follow her soul's calling. She's all about helping people get unstuck using intuitive insights and tarot as her secret weapon. In this episode, we dive deep into how Angela combines tarot and practical coaching to help you find clarity, purpose, and that something more you've been searching for in your career. If you're curious how tarot can guide your next move, you're in the right place. So everyone, here's Angela. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I am so delighted. So we are currently in this funky phase where we prioritize the video over my audio and podcast. And it's fantastic, actually, because my listeners, my viewers can actually see you, which I think is so nice. It just adds that extra dimension and pleasantry to the interview. But Angela, I would love for you, this was just a teeny tiny intro, so I would love for you to actually fill in the gaps for us and take us on a bit of a journey of like, how do you go from corporate to doing the work that you're doing and also trusting and believing tarot?
That's a lot. From that jump from corporate and into running my business full time, it was actually a crossover that happened. So I was with an organization for over 25 years. I worked in HR for 20 years of that. I resigned as their senior vice president of human resources to become a career intuitive and a vocation coach, because I wanted to be able to help people on a more whole level. There were limitations within my career as to how I wanted to help them. It certainly didn't involve tarot. So I actually started my business while I worked for them. I had disclosed what it is that I do. They had no worries about it. So as I was working my corporate career, I was building my business. And then at one point I made the switch because it felt right to do it at that time. So it certainly wasn't, people often think that you have to make like this big scary leap, when often it's really just like trust and curiosity and following that and allowing it to unfold for you. I mean, that's really a lot of what intuition is. As far as tarot, I incorporate that into my coaching. I also do standalone readings, but I never had any question when it came to trusting it. I was like,
Was that something that you used from childhood or like how?
no, but this was years ago. I was just, scrolling the internet, and a tarot deck came across. I wasn't searching for anything, and I don't remember how I came across it, but it was gorgeous. I absolutely loved the way that it looked. And based on that alone, I was like, I'll order this. And I received it and I went through it, and it just felt so comfortable. I was intrigued. I learned it really easily. I read for myself. I was quick to read for others, which many readers, when they pick up, they're really nervous to read for other people, but it just seemed natural for me to read for other people. It felt like something I had done before. There was just no question mark on tarot for me and its usefulness and its, energy as a really positive, forward moving tool. Like there was just no question.
I love that. And I think what drew me to you and what made me really excited about our conversation is because I feel that we both read tarot in a very similar way. But to help my listeners, viewers who are perhaps starting out with tarot, I would love for you to perhaps explain how you see tarot, because I feel like there's two schools of thought. There's the people that think each card has its own interpretation. There's a formula there. And so obviously if you like card A with card B, you'll get this. And, and it feels very, to me, it feels very ego-based, very analytically. It's a very analytical reading. And then the other school of thought is you use your intuition, you read it, you interpret the pictures, and you don't really necessarily get hung up on, oh, but this card means this, or have to read it this way, or in conjunction with this card, it means that. Where do you say, what's your view on tarot?
Oh my gosh, it's a mix of all of that. So, I guess I'll start with when I help people to read it for themselves, I'll start there. I actually don't encourage them to learn the collective meanings of the cards to begin with. I encourage them to just look at the picture. In fact, it's a process of you journal about what you have going on, and then you pick a card, and then you tell the story that you see in the card, and then you let like your perspective unfold. So it takes that pressure away from feeling like you have to know what the card means in order to use tarot. And you absolutely don't. It's an intuition opening tool in that regard. As far as like my perspective on tarot, I respect the collective wisdom. So all of that history and what the card meaning is and what people know that card meaning to be, I respect it. So I learned it. I have all of that background that I'm bringing with me into a reading. However, that can't lead. If that leads when you're reading, you're completely tearing away the intuitive portion of the card. Now, you can say like it's you and your energy that pulled the card, so it is the right card. That is your intuition that allowed that to happen. However, then your interpretation of the card, if you automatically default to just what the book says, you're losing out on all of the connections that were meant to happen when you specifically got that card to look at. So then the magic is in really just allowing yourself to know what that collective meaning is, but not let it override what you're feeling from the card, what you're seeing from the card, what drops in for you as you take that whole thing in. It's a really flat reading if you go with collective wisdom only and don't allow yourself to lean over into how did this even make me feel when I turned it over? And what is this little detail there? What does that mean to me because it stood out to you? So that's where all the magic is
Oh
in
my
reading.
gosh.
Mhm.
Yes, you've articulated it perfectly, because everything that you said, yes, I agree with it so much. Because I guess without realizing it necessarily, I do have the collective wisdom in the back of my mind, right? Like when we look at court cards, I generally know, okay, this represents a person, or like we know
Mhm.
obviously the wands are, very intuitive and like more the sacral, and like, so I know that. But yes, I think it can't lead because you get maybe a little bit too much in your head. I love how you articulated it, that it loses that that connection that you're supposed to have of just exploring what the card is, and different things will maybe stand out to you at different times depending on what you're meant to see, I guess, or know. I always say, when I'm explaining it to someone, I go like, when you look at tarot, it's just a cardboard. It's just cardboard. It's really
Mhm.
just cardboard. There's no magic. Like you don't have to go to someone and get it like attuned or something. But I see it as my guides or Akashic masters, or they use it as a prompt card, like almost like we're playing Pictionary, and then I go like,
Mhm.
yes, yes, that's what, and then it gets the juices going, right?
Mhm.
So this is why I think it's such a fantastic tool, in my opinion, for anyone starting to open up their intuition, tune into these gifts, who need that visual, who need that sort of I feel like almost like opening into their intuition, because the cards are so rich, so beautiful, and really invite you to, what else do you see? Where else? They take you almost on this journey. Would you agree?
Mhm. I would. And as you're saying that, it's funny because um like when I'm in session with clients, like it's one thing when they say something, it's another thing when I reflect that back to them. But then when you also pull a card and the card is communicating a message, for some reason we find it more difficult to dispute what's coming through in the card than we do in what we're saying. So
Mm.
it's an incredible perspective opener. And as you were talking through that, like I I have great coaching skills and I have this intuitive art that I'm able to do, but still I'm in this human experience and it's really easy for my view to be limited. I am the worst coach for myself, right? So when you are sitting one-on-one with yourself, and like you said, that whomever it is from your spiritual team that delivers that image to you for you to consider, that is that other side. So almost considering like you have a coach or a reader across from you, it gives you an opportunity to see past the pathways that
Mm.
you would commonly see things. We are just not our own best coach when
No,
it
because
comes to
we
seeing
can't
perspective.
see the forest for the trees,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That is so wonderful. Now, before we dive into actually your work and how you use tarot, I suspect I may have amongst my listeners, my audience there, um, people who perhaps have this negative I don't know, stigma or fear around tarot. And I do my best to alleviate it by literally saying, look, tarot is a card, but like it's
Mhm.
not, there's no bad juju. Yes, we cleanse it when we get it because a lot of people's hands have touched it in the process. So you want to, neutralize the energy just like you would do with, a lot of other things, pendulums and stuff. But really, it's not like a Ouija board. It's not attached to anything, and everyone has their own personal experiences and fears. But can we perhaps have you, Angela, explain to us, or that maybe there's nothing that we need to worry about when it comes to tarot? Because even if it's not for them themselves using it, we don't want people to be scared going to a tarot reader or
Mhm.
like someone like you who combines it with the coaching.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a course that I've taught called Tarot Made Easy, where I teach that process of incorporating tarot into your personal development without having to know anything about it. And we cover this specifically because people come into the world with all of those things they've heard about tarot or, mediumship or whatever it is, any of the intuitive arts, they have these things that they have heard. When it comes to like the tarot deck, like you said, with the cleansing, to me, and the way that I explain it is anything that I want to use in a more like sacred and cherished way, I want to respect it. So when I think of, cleansing my deck or whatever it is, I'm doing that because I respect it as a tool. So this is something that I just want to keep like really clean and clear from, me to it and to a person that I'm reading. So I deeply respect the tool that I work with. So it's not that if I don't do things, bad things will happen, but it just really helps in the process of being really honoring of what it is that we're doing when we're doing that. When it comes to pulling cards, there's that idea that maybe this message is coming from somewhere bad. On one side, when I pull cards, I do ask for the protection of Archangel Michael to just keep the energy and the positive and the light. It helps to center me into my reading and to kind of create that really like just energetically pure bubble that I like to be in when I'm using the cards. But also then I explain that so when it comes to intuition, like we are able to perceive energy. That is something that we emit. That is something that we feel. Like that is the magic of intuition, is it's just energetically sensing. So when we're using tarot, that is just coming from that same energetic place. I believe that when I'm reading tarot, I'm reading into the energy of a situation, and then I'm offering perspective, and then people make choices from that. So there's nothing that your hand is then tied at what is coming from that card. It is simply meant to pick up on the energy of what is happening so that you can evaluate more fully. The last thing that I explain is they think that if they think that there's something inherently, I'll say evil about the cards, for lack of better words, it's about intention. So you can make anything good or bad based on intention. So I use the example of a doll. When you think of children playing with dolls, you don't think of something evil, but when you think of a voodoo doll, you might have a more negative thought that comes to mind. The difference between that doll that the child is playing with and the voodoo doll is intention. What does someone intend to do with this tool, with this item? So people can do that with anything, really. And
Mm.
they can even do it outside of the intuitive arts. When you think about how people can use something to manipulate somebody else, completely outside of our conversation
Mm.
here, it comes down to your intention as a human and what you're using it for. So the deck of cards that are literally just paper with pictures on them don't come with anything that anyone should feel uncomfortable with.
Mm.
But I understand that they are coming with some opinions and some thoughts that were probably built into them that they're trying to break apart as they evaluate if it's right for them or not.
I love this. Yes, because when you think about it, anything holds energy. I mean, old books that were given to you by your, late grandfather, right? Or a
Mhm.
pipe, or, like anything holds energy. And so the cards, and this is, I guess, why psychometry is a thing, but the cards, and I do exactly the same thing. You want to, you know, honor the honor spirit and honor the practices and just kind of neutralize. I always think, I am not scared of any bad juju in the spirit world, because spirit world is very respectful of free will. So even
Mhm.
if you feel somehow you are possessed by something, just telling them to go away and leave your energy, generally they respect that. It has never
Mhm.
happened to me, but what I think we need to maybe consider, and maybe that's why we are doing the cleansing, or I do the cleansing of cards when I first get them, is other people's energy who don't necessarily need to infuse it intentionally with bad stuff, like, oh, these cards, whoever they reach, they're gonna, have, a negative effect. It's more just that, the people that are touching, they're having their own stuff. Maybe someone's, going through something, maybe someone's sad or depressed, or so it's just neutralizing the energy, kind of like starting from zero, cleansing and going like, I'm programming them with my energy. I actually don't
Mhm.
let anyone touch my cards. So how
I
some
don't
readers,
either.
yeah,
Yeah, I
some
don't either.
allow, but I don't even, we don't, I shuffle and I, separate them, and we don't. Now, Angela, let's tell me, before we dive into your practices, tell me, because I would love to know how you how the tool and tarot, like, what does that mean to you? Because I don't leave the house without my crochet and my deck of cards. I may forget my phone. I usually can't forget my keys because my car won't start, but I always have them. I feel like they're, you know, um, even though I may not use them where I'm going, but I kind of go like, yeah, but I might, and I love having them there. It's almost like carrying my journal with you. What is your practice around tarot? What do you do? Do you use them in the morning? Do you use them in the evening?
Um, I anytime. I mean,
Because I love to
anytime.
know how
But
everyone
yeah,
uses it for themselves.
yeah, it's not uncommon that I'll pull a card in the morning just for something that's on my mind or to give like a tap into like a general message of what do I most need to know today? What do I most need to be aware of today? What would I be most um like if I were to tap into this thing that this would be like a more aligned day, like it's just whatever it is that I'm feeling called to do. I also do like some manifesting work with the moon cycles. So there's a few different tarot spreads that I'll pull in the morning that are like 3 card spreads, just to kind of tap into that. Nothing too comprehensive in the morning, or I'll do that all day. As far as like, I always have a deck like over here to grab whenever I've got somebody here and we need to pull a card. I've got a tiny deck that's over there. I'm surrounded by decks back here. Back here, there's more upstairs. Like, um,
What's your favorite deck? What's the deck that you like always work with?
um, it's For me personally, I have one deck that I don't use with anybody else. All of my other decks are up for grabs to use in client readings, but the deck I use for myself is called the Prisma Visions Tarot by James R. Eads. It's really pretty. His cards, when you line up each suit, they form one large picture. They all continue off of each
Wow.
other. It's really neat. Yeah. In client sessions, I mean, I've got my radiant writer weight that I'll use all of the time, especially if it's an impromptu pull. If I'm thinking of the reading ahead of time going into it, I'll either grab that radiant writer weight or I'll just grab the deck that feels most aligned to the reading, because to me, the decks have like different personalities when it comes to a reading. So there are some that, like, as far as relationship or career or purpose, or the person that I'm working with, do I see them as a softer color or a bolder color? Do I see them as this traditional imagery, or do I see them as this modern imagery? So it's like I'm really picking up on the energy of the person too, and what
Mm.
deck just really matches that experience that we're going into. There was something else that I was going to say as you were going through that, but I don't remember what it was. Did I cover all of the questions that you answered or that
Yeah,
you
like how,
asked?
yeah, your
Mhm.
practices around tarot and how you use it for yourself. And you've touched on that you have a deck that's just for you, and then you
Mhm.
use different decks depending on what person comes through, what they need. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. We know that we don't, you and I don't let other people touch our decks.
We don't,
Wait
yeah.
a second. We want to keep our energy. Do you prefer a more minimalistic sort of deck, or a rich, like one that has a rich sort of pictures and details, like I guess the Rider Waite?
I do prefer more pictures. That is really helpful for me as a reader because it gives me a lot to go off of. It's so interesting to me how many times you can pull the same card and feel it differently and see it differently. It was just the other day. It was the Six of Cups. There's what appears to be a man in the background walking away. And I don't know how many times I had pulled that card and had never really noticed that man walking away in the background. But for that reading, that mattered. That meant something. So I do prefer cards that have plenty for me to look at, and also that I feel good enough about the imagery. And I say good enough because you have cards like the Devil and the Tower that appear to be really harsh cards, and they're really not. So there is some imagery that is just a little bit darker than other imagery, not too dark. Um, but decks like the I believe it's the Disney Villains tarot deck. It is a really cool looking deck, and I love Disney villains. But for me, when I'm reading, for all of the cards to be in line with the villains of Disney, it doesn't feel good energetically for me to
Mm.
grab that deck. Whereas others, they have no issue with that. So it's so personal to a reader what it is that they like to see to deliver really
Mm.
great readings.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, I have this beautiful deck that's like this goddess deck. It's actually been created in Greece, beautiful. And when you line them together, there's like this flow that
Mhm.
appears, and it's either more brown or more gold, depending on what how the light catches it. Stunning deck, but it's so minimalistic that like I feel like I need to get used to it more. It doesn't just flow for me. And then I found a couple of years ago my late mom's deck. She used to have this that I remember whenever I saw it as a child. It was just red and dark and very modern, but very diabolic almost. I remember just thinking, oh my God, they're very scary images. And then I pulled it out and I decided I'm going to get used to it, but I can't. And I feel like this is just a deck that like is infused with my mom's energy, and it's just for me to keep, not really play with. I
Mm.
just don't connect with it. Now let's talk about maybe how we can use tarot to make career decisions, or how you use it for your clients to help them make career decisions. Because one question, when I kind of stalked you and saw a little bit of your work, and one question that came to my mind is, I wonder if Angela uses tarot to do predictions, because I feel like people generally want or are drawn to tarot readers because they think they're going to get the date, the time, the place, everything specific. And I know there's people that do that, but I'm wondering whether this is you as well. So how do you use it, and do you do predictions?
It's not me. So I do read in a more coaching consultative style. I do not use it in a predictive fashion. When I first started reading for others, I was taking on a lot of different style readings, and it's very common for someone to want a very specific answer, be it if very specifically, if someone loves them, if someone is coming back, when they will meet their soulmate, what their soulmate will look like, if they'll get that job, just very specific. And it's really one, for me, it's not a strength of the tarot to provide that very specific information. For others, they use it in that fashion. It's just not the way that I use it, because I do use tarot, like I said, to pick up on the energy of a situation. I like to empower people with information so that they can make the best choice for them. So all of the emphasis in my business is in helping people to be soul-led. I focus specifically on career because with my HR background, it's just a really fantastic niche for me to be in. To me, it's funny. I won't say that predictions can't be made, but we as humans, as soon as we get our hands on a prediction, we have a tendency to then believe that's going to be true, and then to change our course of behavior in a way that we wouldn't have changed it had we not known that information. And it gets more frustrating to us when that thing is not here now, if we know that it's supposed to be here. So to me, it's a little bit more disempowering to give a yes, no, or exact, and a lot more in that soul-led way of allowing them to kind of tap into their own inner wisdom and make their best choices, to just give the information, energy, the perspective around the situation and what they can do. Free will, free will, free will, all the way.
Mm. Yeah, I love that, empowering and helping people to expand, which to me always feels like it's not that you're changing, like you're changing who you are, it's just expanding the amount of soul that is in this tiny body, and so all the realizations and empowerment that comes with it. I really love that. So when we have these seemingly innocent cardboard cards in front of us, how do we get information about a career from them?
Oh, what's funny is like the first thing that came to mind is sometimes it's frustrating. And I only say that because, like I said, we really do want answers. We want to know my exact path from here to where I want to go. And can this reading give me my exact path from here to where I want to go? So one, there's that kind of like expectation setting in the beginning of nothing's going to do that for you. In this human experience, we are here to experience that path, to take the steps, to have it unfold for us. We are not here, tapped into every answer that we would want to have as desperately as we want that. It's not what this experience is for. So as we're looking at using tarot to either decide your career path or just navigate your day-to-day career and what you have, it's all about just energetically reading where you are now as highlighting your next best step to where it is that you want to go. And then understanding that as you take every single one of those steps, you are in fact walking towards your vision, and then accepting that your vision might be shifting because you didn't know what you know after each of those steps when you first had that vision. So it's
Mm.
trusting that just getting into the process and following that curiosity and taking those intuitive action steps is what is leading you towards your path or on your path and towards your vision, and allowing you to serve in purpose at the same time, because purpose is built on those intuitive steps, those soul-led steps. Did I answer
Mm.
your question? I feel like I
Yes,
got like a
absolutely.
little out like blossoming on that one.
No, I definitely resonate with it. And I feel like in case if anyone is thinking, yeah, but I need to know A or B or this path or that path, there is just so much to it. Like it's never, I found this, I read Akashic Records, and I found that
Mhm.
the Akashic Records have taught me that we as humans think there has to be a very clear yes or no, this way or that way kind of answer, but it's never as closed ended as we think. It's usually more open and expanded because they're inviting you to really explore the possibility of anything's possible. When you make this decision, that's a good decision. When you make this decision, that's a
Mhm.
better decision. But even if you do this decision that was just good, it will somehow lead you to the
Mhm.
outcome, the ultimate outcome. So if anything, it gives us more peace of mind. I personally believe that when we do predictions, like if I was to say you will meet this tall, dark, handsome man, at a bar, at this bar on this day in a couple of months, I feel like I'm programming the person, so then they will have that in the forefront of their mind, so that their energy will be vibrating. And that this is why predictions, I think, happen, because you're programmed to follow this path. So someone might say, well, then I don't bother taking any invitations for the next 2 months. I'm just going to stay home and wait till in 2 months I'll go to that
Mhm.
bar, right? But in the 2 months, you're missing on a whole nother opportunity. And what maybe I didn't see in that reading is that the man, the tall, dark, handsome man in 2 years, is not your Mr. Right. He is just a learning, right? So there's so
Mhm.
many possibilities. So this definitely explains, and I think it invites us to approach tarot readers, to approach coaches who use tarot as a tool that is assisting into showing you more, so that they get from you not just the corporate business experience, but also what is in the highest good for them,
Mhm.
which, like you said in the beginning, Angela, we come to a session, no matter how open, how spiritual, how neutral we are, how much we try to keep our own agenda outside, we come with a certain set of knowledge experience into it. And yes, we try to keep that at bay if that's not what the client wants. For you, it's wonderful because you have that experience and you've aligned yourself with clients who will come probably for that as well. But then you pull out the cards and there's so much more that comes through it, which I think is something that is a beautiful bonus if they go into a session with you, that they get your experience, but also, and your knowledge, but also this other thing that is in the highest
Mhm.
good for them. Um, would you what do you think about this?
Yeah. Um, it's actually something that I had to learn to balance really well when it comes to integrating coaching and tarot, because coaching, when I hold it at its highest standard, it is all about pulling the wisdom from the person that is in front of me without my opinion, without my judgment, without my expectation, without my ego. It is all about listening to them and reflecting and asking just the right questions to help them kind of dig deeper. And it's completely sourced from within them. On the intuitive side, there is information. So there's like a couple of ways. So when people are talking to me on the clear audience side, which is clear hearing, there are pieces of what they say that just feel more bolded to me than other things that they say. And those things kind of weave together, and then I can weave them together and deliver that to them. As well as the clear hearing. Yeah. So the clear hearing and clear seeing and clear sentience. So the kind of empath side of things are the ones that come through strongest. That information is like given to me for them. So when I have that come through, and I have that recognition that this thing is coming through that's not mine, it feels wrong to not give it to them. So
Mhm.
when I look at coaching and when I look at the receiving those intuitive messages, there can be some conflict there, because I want to hold them completely pure in coaching, but then I'm also getting this information that is for them and it's not for me. So within a session, I just make it really clear where we are in that process. So it like if I'm in the coaching process and something comes through, I make sure that I kind of step aside and acknowledge it as this information is for you. You can take, tweak, or trash it, but it's not mine, it's yours. So here it is. So I'm able to just kind of switch between those two modes so that it's never just me like feeling like I'm just giving advice to somebody.
Mm.
It's really, really important to me that whatever is happening in that experience is ultimately soul led by them. So be it that it's information that I'm helping to pull like from them through them, or it's information that's being delivered to me to deliver to them for them to consider. We're just
Mm.
making sure that it's really them that's in charge of whatever this outcome is going to be that they ultimately decide to do with this information.
So if someone says, I really don't know, I don't know what I should choose, I don't know what I want, I don't know whether this job is better than the other, how would you help them then? Would you use then the tarot? Does the tarot give you then the information to kind of
Mhm.
help them with that,
It
taking
helps
away that
break it
burden?
up. Yeah, it helps to break it up. So if they're really in an I don't know, and coaching questions are just not going to help their I don't know, that's why I love bringing in tarot, because it takes I'll just say it takes me out of it, it takes them out of it. Like we just turn to the card, we read that story that's coming out, and again, it takes us to that different perspective, or it very clearly aligns with a thought process that they were already having. So it serves as an affirmation for them. But tarot for me just really helps to break up the stickier spots in a session where people feel particularly stuck or uncertain.
I love that. Now, one of the things that I know and you know is that tarot helps us to get on the path of our purpose or find a purpose, however I want to call this. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about this, either how we can start kind of doing this at home or without obviously giving away too much? Because I know that it's not even that we're gatekeeping anything, but it's just it can be a very thorough, deep topic. But just a few points of what we can do perhaps to get us started if we have a tarot deck lying around, or if we come to someone like you, what can we expect?
Yeah, I'll start with the like, how do you do this at home? Um, Tarot deck or oracle deck, both will work. I just recommend that people have something that is that they want to look at. So like I said, they don't have an aversion to looking at, and it gives them a little bit of something to go off of. There is a daily tarot journal that I published on Amazon, and I published it because I like to use pretty things. So I made a pretty thing. People don't have to order that to do the practice. They can if they want a pretty thing. But it really has to do with that process that I was kind of outlining earlier, where I want for people to, was that before we pressed record or was it in this? Either way, I'm going to explain it. I want people to turn to their journal first, not to the cards first. So whatever it is that's on their mind, I want them to turn to a journal page and just write out all of their thoughts unedited. If people don't like writing, you can also speak this into a recorder, and do it that way. Either way, we're just looking for the thoughts about the situation to be processed, unfiltered. After you've done that, then from your deck, you pull a card and you flip it over and you just start telling the story of what you see in the card, not about your situation. Just start telling the story of what you see in the card. As you tell that story, what you're doing is you're allowing your, um, it's in the mind, but you're allowing your mind to start opening to thoughts that you wouldn't be having if you weren't telling the story in that card. And in that process, it just allows your whole self to start expanding because you're stepping away from the mind lock of that situation. You're telling a story that you wouldn't have been telling otherwise. And as you do that, it just starts making connections for you between the story that you're telling and the situation that you have. You start seeing some either similarities or some connection points that finally allow you to say, what if I thought about it this way? Or what if I tried this? Or that feels really similar to the thing I didn't want to do that I know that I should do. Like there's a lot of things that can happen. So it allows you to start using that tarot and oracle without having to have that collective meaning. And instead, it's just an expansive process for you to start leaning into that more intuitive and creative side. I say creative, and that's like anything creative is such an excellent, like, door to open into
Mm.
intuition. Creativity really allows you to step into that realm. So you go from your journal page into the storytelling, and things just start to kind of connect for you. So that's how
Mm.
you can use it at home to get started. When it comes to engaging someone like me or someone like you into like really wanting more information than you can source for yourself, really wanting that perspective, really tapping into the intuitive tools of people who have been nurturing that and have been reading for others. It's just, you come with your question, you come wanting the answer to your question, and all of that is very human. So don't judge yourself for that. Just be open to receiving what the reading has to give. So I always ask people, we center, we do a breathing exercise right before we jump into the session, and we just ask for an open heart and open mind for receiving what we are intended to receive in that time together. Did I
Mm.
answer?
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
nailed it so much. I mean, nailed it, not
Okay.
that it was the right, but for me, I loved it. I loved it. It resonates so much. And especially the practice that we can do at home. I love that because it takes away also this pressure of like, sometimes when we ask for guidance, it can feel like we're waiting for the kettle to boil and we're like, I'm not getting anything because it's so emotionally charged. So the way you have explained it here to us, Angela, makes it less scary, less overwhelming, and sort of fun, really fun. And I definitely agree that creativity opens you up more to intuition. Definitely. Now, is there anything that you wish I asked that I didn't ask as we come to the end of this wonderful conversation?
We have had an excellent conversation. The only thing that came to me just on that last point that we were
Mhm.
talking about is I generally advise that people don't turn to the cards in a very anxious state. When we turn
Mhm.
to them in a very anxious state, we're often really seeking an answer. And when we're really seeking an answer, that desperation just causes us to be really blind to um, what it is that could come through in that card. And if you see something you don't like, you might take it in a more difficult way when you're in that really anxious state. So it's really important to be more open. If you are using them in a more anxious state, just set an intention before you go into the process of just saying that, again, I'm really open to receiving the insights. And then understanding that there is nothing definitive that is happening in that process. Nothing definitive is happening. You are just gaining information and engaging in a process. And I think that's why sometimes it can be it can be better, or there are times where it's more called for to have someone read for you or someone to coach for you, so that they are delivering perspective and they are holding space for you and they're holding you so whole in that time that you have just a lot of feeling of safety and reassurance in that moment, rather than allowing your thoughts to spiral, and then it's really difficult for you to recover. Also, it really helps on the accountability side. You can go through that journaling and card process and come to a determination of, this step really would be the best thing for me. But if that step allows, or if that step involves any sort of discomfort, change, challenge, vulnerability, time, you're often going to let it slip through the cracks. So having
Mm.
someone that can kind of help you to plot that out a little bit more clearly and hold you accountable to what that next best step is, uh, that's some of the advantage of taking the practice outside of yourself. I have a coach. I get read by others. if I don't, I will get so locked up in my mind because I can't see all of my paths so clearly. Because again,
Mm,
this human experience really gets me tunnel visioned a lot of the
mm,
time, especially as, you know, purpose driven, high achiever. Like we there's things that we want and we want them done and we want them done now. So it just helps me to get out of that state when I have somebody else hold that space for me.
mm. Well said, and I definitely agree 100%. Oh, Angela, this was such a wonderful conversation. We are coming to the end of it,
Mhm.
and I like to ask my guests whether they have a little gift for us, a little message, and whether they would be willing to share it with us.
I would love to pull a card. Like I said, I
Yes,
always have my deck ready to go.
yes,
And
I
I would
love
just
that.
like to, yeah, pull just a message for the collective on something that would serve us to hear right now, if that's okay.
We
Yeah.
love
All right,
that.
good. I've got my deck here. I have the Radiant Rider-Waite.
Oh, I love that one.
Just right. So I'll just ask for clear energy from crown to root, root to crown, and open heart to receive messages and the guidance and intuition to interpret them. I ask for my guides and the guides of the collective to be present to deliver the message that we most need, and for the protection of Archangel Michael to keep the energy and the positive and the light. I'll just ask for a collective message on something that would just serve us all to hear right now. Oh, I love having those reactions when you flip a card. So the card that I received is the Ace of Wands. So if people can't see it clearly, they can Google it. It's the traditional imagery. The Ace of Wands is just such an amazing card to pull, and I love it in relation to this conversation. It is that spark, that thing that lights you up, that curiosity. So when I was talking about curiosity and how it lights up your intuition, we have the Wands, which is not as intuitive as a suit as the Cups is, but it is one of passion and purpose and manifestation and drive, and in some cases, spirituality. So it's just, I really encourage you, if there is anything either about this conversation or what you have going on in life in general, that you have that, like, oh, like, I'm curious about that. That lights me up. I am so interested in that. All you have to do is just start learning about it. So it's not like oh my gosh, that sounds too big for me. Like, don't get lost in the that sounds too big for me. Instead, just take that spark and start looking into, oh, I want to know more about that. So do a Google search, have a conversation with somebody. Just allow yourself to explore. So a message that serves us all right now is just really allow yourself to follow that spark. And that's all it has to be. Don't put more pressure on it than that. Like, this is like one of those really solar plexus lighting up
Mm.
cards. Just like let that sink into you and follow the curiosity, because you can't go wrong in following, you can't go wrong in following your spark. Like, you can't go wrong in following your spark. So
Love that. Oh,
yeah.
that's a beautiful message. Thank you, Angela. Thank you. Thank you. Now, before you go, please share with everyone where they can find you, what they can do with you. And I would also love to, we'll talk after this, but link to the journal that you have created. So we'll put it
Oh
all in the
yeah.
show notes below, or whatever it's called, below this video. So you can click through, find Angela. But as you're listening, please tell us.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm in most places. So Angela McKay LLC is my business. I've got my website. Instagram is my main platform. You can find me there doing tarot card for career reels. They're 1-minute reels. Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those places you can find me. On my website, you can download a free resource called a Career Compass. And there's also a career clarity reading that I've got going on right now. It's a 1-hour power session where I use coaching, tarot, and intuitive reading to reveal a career path and an action step. It's one of my favorite things to do right now. So I've got my bigger packages, but that career clarity reading is a really great entry point for someone to start working with me.
Fantastic. I will make sure we have all the links there. So when you finish watching us, you can go and click through and find Angela and then be in her good hands with her friend, her tarot. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you coming and doing this after your hours, work hours, because the time difference was such a bum.
We're
Excuse
on
my
different
language.
days.
I know, in the future you're still, there in Tuesday, but thank you so much. I really, really appreciated that. That was really, really wonderful, and so grateful that I got to talk to you. I hope we can connect again. And everyone, thank you for being here. I hope that you got lots of gold nuggets from this conversation, and I hope that you will go and look up Angela McKay. Thank you, everyone. Bye.